Okay, excellent. So many people. We just jumped from 20 participants to 45, and it's just going more and more. We actually had about 300, no, over 300, 320 registrations for the session. So we'll see how many people actually end up, because that's quite a big number. And I hope you all were able to find us here okay. I know there was a little bit of a snafu with the original Zoom registration link, but it seems like folks are finding their way here, so that's good. And it is 3 o'clock in Eastern time zone. I'm calling to you all from Vermont. My name is Cynthia, and I am the Communications Director at the Foundation for Intentional Community. FIC is hosting this call, Communities Respond to COVID-19. And I feel very touched to be here with you all at this time, and moved by the amount of support and people who are like, yeah, we want to connect. We want to join on this call, and we want to learn from intentional communities, as well as just connect with other people who are going through this challenging time. So thank you all very much for being here. And I'm going to review the agenda shortly and go into a round of introducing some of the key players that are helping to produce this call. But first, a quick housekeeping reminder. Please, everyone, stay muted if you're not speaking. You'll see on your Zoom screen, there's a little mute button at the bottom, and just make sure that that's muted at all times unless you are called on or want to speak. We have a lot of people on this call, and if we get, 100 or 200 people, if even just a few of you have your button unmuted, that'll create some background noise. So please keep that in mind. And I think I'm gonna move into sharing the agenda with you all, which you should have received in an email if you did register for this call. But I'm as well going to share my screen so that we can take a look. Okay, I hope you can see that. Good, all right. So here's the call agenda. This is about a 2-hour call, and we are in the opening piece right now. Soon we're gonna introduce some folks in FIC, and there'll be a bit of a reading and a moment of silence, which Adam, who's co-facilitating with me, will guide us through. And then we're going to have a breakout session. There's 2 breakout sessions on this call, and the first one will be kind of a check-in. We're not going to do a full check-in round with everyone. That would be a little bit too much. So we're going to instead put you in groups of 4 so that you can have a moment of a bit of a deeper check-in with your group about how you are right now, and how this situation might be affecting you personally or the community that you're part of. Then we'll have some time to harvest from that discussion, hear a few voices. We'll have a facilitated activity and some live music to kind of a little bit shift the energy. And then the second breakout group will be focused more practically on how your community is responding and preparing, if there's anything you need or questions you need help answering, as well as if you have any advice or support that you want to offer to your group. And that actually will be in groups of 6 people. It'll be a little bit bigger groups. And we have a note-taking document for you that is a collaborative note space that you all should have edit access to. So we encourage you for that second breakout group to take notes of your conversations, because we'd like to collect resources from this call and then share those also on the ic.org website. And then we'll harvest from that discussion, and we'll have a closing piece that'll include a game and another reading. And and that'll be a wrap. So the arc of this conversation, and really our intention, is to create a space for you all to connect authentically with each other as much as is possible via Zoom, as well as to share practical information, tools, and resources to support each other. Yeah. And I'm going to scroll down so you can see. Once again, this call is hosted by the Foundation for Intentional Community. We are a nonprofit organization that relies on a lot of volunteer effort and love to support intentional communities and support people in connecting with community. And we put together a sponsorship program to help fund this call, which is free. It's free for participants. We're sharing this via Facebook live stream, and we want to have it be a really accessible resource. So in order to do that, we created a sponsorship program, and these 4 wonderful sponsors came forward and donated, and we want to support them by sharing about their work. So we have Clearly Canadian, we have Keller Williams Portland Central, Sasandra and Citria, and Oakwood Retreat Center. And the website links for all of those sponsors are in the agenda document. And maybe someone who could help me by putting the agenda document in the chat so everyone can access that. Thank you. All right. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm back with you. Let's see. Oh, great. 87 participants now. Wonderful. Good. So at this point, I want to invite the other folks here from FIC to introduce themselves. And I'd like to start with Adam, who has been kind of partner in producing this call and designing the agenda and getting everything set up. So Adam, take it away.
Thanks, Cynthia. Great to see everyone here. I'm FIC's IT director, and also really happy to have the opportunity to help facilitate these Community Connect calls with Cynthia.
Excellent. And now we'll go to Emlyn, if you're there. Emlyn is supporting with monitoring the Facebook Live space.
Hi, folks. I'm calling right now from the White Mountains in New Hampshire. And most recently, I've spent 3 years living at Birdsfoot Community in northern New York, right up by the Canadian border. And I work primarily supporting Facebook and other social media efforts on behalf of FIC.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emlyn. And Neil, are you there? Neil is going to be helping moderating the chat room in Zoom for this call.
Hi, everybody. I'm Neil. I'm a founder of a co-housing community in downtown Oakland, California, Swans Market Co-housing. I also wear a few hats with FIC nowadays, mostly managing memberships and donations and all the advertising that comes in. And it's good to be with you all. Yes, I'll be in and out of the chat room, and you might even hear me read something a little later. Nice to be here.
Great. Thanks, Neil. And is Kim there? I'm not sure if she is.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim. I'm calling in from Sandhill Farm in Northeast Missouri. I'm also a member of the FIC Quartet staff, and I predominantly focus on managing our online bookstore and our online directory. And I will also today be kind of in and out of the chat. You'll probably see me there. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kim. And if there are any other FIC or board members on this call, I'd invite you to please introduce yourselves. Okay, so that might be it. All right. Good. Well, I think at this point we're going to officially start the call, the community's respond to COVID-19 call. And I'm going to hand it over to Adam to kind of start us off with a bit of intention and gratitude, and there will be a reading, and from there we'll transition into the first breakout group. But for right now, I'll hand it off to Adam.
Thanks, Cynthia. So these are tough times for a lot of people. We wanted to start this call with a bit of gratitude for all the people who are heroically putting themselves at risk and working incredibly hard to keep other folks alive and well. All those doctors and nurses and healthcare workers who are on the front lines all over the world. And as I go through this, you're welcome to close your eyes or make whatever gestures of gratitude come to you if you are so inclined. Also want to put out some gratitude for those irrepressible Italians who have inspired the world by singing from their balconies, even as their country was in lockdown and suffering. And also grateful for those cases which can be too rare of times when politicians and leaders work together and put their egos and ambitions aside to do the right thing for all. And also grateful for the millions or billions of acts of incredible kindness and humanity that are being called forth by these times. And also for the people playing music and making jokes and posting silly memes and videos on Twitter and YouTube and helping to lighten some dark moments. And then getting a bit closer to home, let's be grateful for the places we live and the people that we live with, and for the power of community to hold us together even if we have to stay physically apart. And also gratitude for this kind of community of communities that's meeting online today. And even closer to home, I'm grateful for the level of health that allows us to participate in this call. And let's also be grateful for breath, for the lungs and the air that's moving in and out of them, in most cases for us, painlessly and freely and automatically. That's letting us be alive and well. So if we can stay with the gratitude for a moment, Neil is going to read us a poem, which was written recently for the times that we're in.
Some of you might have come across Lynn Ungar. She's a UU minister, lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. And she recently wrote something called Pandemic. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up, just for now, on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Do not reach out your hands. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live.
Thank you, Neil. So now, maybe still keeping some gratitude with us, let's also take a moment of silence to acknowledge those who have lost lives or loved ones, and to acknowledge also the ways that the crisis that we're in will hit hardest those who are weakest or most vulnerable among us, and let our hearts go out to them as well. And later we'll have time to consider our responses. For now, we'll just take a quiet moment to let ourselves be still and sink into the reality of the times we're in and all of its faces and dimensions. So we'll have just a moment of silence. Okay. So in a moment, we'll split out into breakout groups to have some conversation. But is there anything that that wants to be shared right now, very briefly, with the whole group? If there is, I'd invite anyone to unmute yourself and say a few words if you're so inclined.
Hello. Hi. Am I unmuted?
You are. Yep.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. You know, with the COVID and the transmissible diseases and the role of all our indigenous ancestors was to live in approximately 100 person. Now the longhouses, the pueblo, the word Canada, where I'm from, comes from the word village, and it means the 100-person village economic unit. So one of the things I'd like to contribute is just this awareness that what intentional communities are doing is rebirthing a very ancient module of disease control. And it's creating known circles where people interact with each other and care and share with each other, because we need each other, we need our circle. But by having reduced circles, what Indigenous people were able to do worldwide was create, when epidemics arrived, they were able to create systems that were autonomous for the periods that were needed. And so we have a huge role to play in our society in general in helping the whole society come along through our basic module of organization.
Thanks, Douglas. Anyone else have a couple words?
I have a request. My name is Joyce Bressler. I live in Stony Point, New York. I'm part of a community called the Community of Living Traditions. I just was hoping that people could, when they speak, identify themselves and where they're from.
Hey, this is Eric
That's
Wolf of Earth Haven Eco Village. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, Eric.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a sort of a large group here. There's 100 of us, and we're split up in separate neighborhoods. So we have, each neighborhood is almost its own community, and we're running a little bit ahead, I think, of other responses in other communities. We have a protocol, a 5-stage protocol, and we also have, we've been recording a series of interviews with different people on the land, of like with a naturopath and a clinical herbalist, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker talking about the pandemic. Just want to make that aware as a resource that maybe we could spread that around the communities movement, because I know in smaller communities you may not have the resources or the time to create those things. So just making people aware of that.
Thanks, Erica. We'll have some perfect opportunities for you to share resources and approaches that your communities are taking later on in the call. So that's great.
Adam, I just want to say two really quick things, if I may. One is I'm extremely grateful for you and everyone, Cynthia and everyone, for putting the call together. The second thing is I am going to leave the call and come back and see if I can change my identity from Electric Blue to Susan Shan. Usually when you first enter a chat, there's a way to do that. So I'm going to leave, but I'm coming right back.
You don't need to leave. You can right click on your own picture and rename.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Just right click on your own picture.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
Cynthia, maybe we should go into breakout groups now.
Can I share something kind of important with everybody in the group here? They changed the unemployment laws yesterday. So any self-employed or unemployed person can now get unemployment insurance benefits regardless of their work history. And they raised it. So some people will get the maximum $600 per week. And when you fill out the application, there's like 6 or 7 tricky questions, and be aware of it's a robot checking it. And when you get to the question, it says, do you live in a disaster area? It drops down and says health, disaster. And that's the one that you got to make sure that you check so that you are applying for this new benefit. And the law just changed yesterday.
Sorry, this is super useful information. We're going to have a time later in the call for folks to share all kinds of practical details for this kinds of stuff. So if it's okay, I think we should move on to our first round of breakout groups, and then we'll get back to practical topics a little later on in the call, if that's all right.
Good. Good. Well, thank you, Adam, and thank you everyone for being with us at this time. And we're going to go very shortly into breakout groups. You'll be automatically assigned into groups of 3 or 4 people. And the prompt is to share how you are doing, how this situation might be affecting you or your community. And please self-facilitate in your group. You'll have about 15 minutes to share. So make sure that everyone kind of gets an equal amount of speaking time. Are there any questions about the breakout groups before I put you into the groups? I'll automatically call you back, so you don't need to worry about that. Are there any questions?
I don't understand how this is going to work, but maybe I don't have to.
Yeah, trust the process.
Repeat that. Mine cut out. Can you repeat that, please?
I'm going to put you into breakout groups in just a minute. And you don't need to worry about everything. It'll happen, anything. It'll happen automatically.
And
all right.
Feel free to introduce yourselves to each other at the beginning of the breakout group, so you have a sense of who you're talking to.
Thank you. Okay. Let's put you into.
Never mind.
There we are. Breakout groups. Okay. Okay, we are going to go into 23 breakout groups. And I'll see you back in 15 minutes. Enjoy. From your breakout groups, I see we have more and more people returning. I hope you had good conversations. Excellent. So we have about 10 minutes to open up the space. If anyone would like to share something from your conversation, something about how you are doing, or a reflection you had from listening to the others in your group. And yeah, please just, it might be helpful if you can raise your hand, and then we'll know. You can raise your hand like on your screen, but then there's also a button in Zoom that you can raise your hand. If you go to the participant view, you can see a button to raise your hand. And if you would like to follow the conversation in the chat, please press on the chat button that's in your lower toolbar on your Zoom screen. And that way we can have a conversation going in the chat. And then we'll also open up in this space. So I see a few people who want to speak, and I see Patricia Kelson. You can go first.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yes.
Oh, I just enjoyed our breakout. I love Zoom and the capacity to do breakout sessions. Thank you for doing that. The 2 people who were in my group, it just seemed like they were the perfect people who I want to stay connected with. We had some good laughs, and we just cooperated with our self-facilitation so beautifully. So I feel very full and grateful. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Beautiful. Next, we'll hear from David Ferreira. Hi, David.
Hi, Cynthia. So good to see you always. Miss you. Just really quickly want to say how grateful I am to all of us for offering what there is to offer. This is a unique, totally historic moment. And we get to wake up every day and lead, right? The choice is to wear a bathrobe and slippers all day and watch old series you've seen a couple years ago, or take a shower and lead the way. And I really feel like this is a magical opportunity for our community and the communities around us to join together. So yeah, we're doing a lot of outreach and trying to figure out how to support. And I'm just glad that FIC and everybody's put this on. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And next we'll hear from Terry. Terry Bergadal.
So our group had a mix of people from different kinds of communities. Two of us were urban communities. I'm with the Green Rice community in Chicago. Eric is with a community in Staten Island. We also had rural communities. I think it was Cindy that was outside of Joplin in very much a rural area. Those of us who are from urban communities definitely are feeling a challenge of we have a history of being porous communities where doors are open, people who want to come to dinner are welcome to come to dinner. We've always prided ourselves in that kind of openness. And now we're having to reconsider what that means, particularly in light of protecting ourselves and the larger community. And I can speak for myself, our own community, our youngest is 2 years old, but our oldest is close to 80. And we definitely have some very compromised health situations. And therefore, we've really been forced to move toward that more protective mode. I'm complete.
Thank you, Terry. And next we'll hear from Gina.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. I guess what I wanted to say was I am also super grateful for this. My community, I just wanted to take a second to tell the whole group, my community is the Renaissance Festival community, if anybody's familiar with that. So we are a traveling community. Somebody just did a happy dance, cool. So we're a traveling community. So unlike I think maybe a lot of you who are dealing with these issues from like we are in our space and how do we deal with that? My community travels the country full time and has kind of been like ripped apart in a way of trying to find where do we actually go to live now, because a lot of us live in campers and trailers and stuff like that. So I joined this chat to find what resources I could find about that. But from our group chat, some of the things that I thought were interesting, they said like having things planned versus having free time. I think having things planned in your day has been really helpful for people like in quarantine. And then also just, I'm curious about for you guys, how you can deal with such shared spaces of like you have your quarantine, but maybe in the communities you share like bathrooms or kitchens or other spaces like that. So that to me seems like it would be really hard. I don't know if anybody else feels that way in these close communities that y'all live in. And then the other thing I want to share is I woke up this morning like feeling really low, and normally I'm a light to the world, and I was like not feeling well, and then I got the bing to join this, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get out of bed and shower and do this. So that's my rambles. Thank you guys. I appreciate you all.
Thank you. I'm glad you did it. Glad you're here. Good. Thank you. All right, next we'll hear from Maria Zayas. Hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Do I need to unmute myself? Oh, I'm unmuted. You that was pretty close. But in our group, we had a mixture of people who were living in community and not in community. And we talked about how there are different ways that we can all be helpful during these days. and that some of the on-ground communities in a way have the ability to do certain things in terms of reach out and supporting neighbors and that sort of thing. But that the folks who are not living in community may not have those opportunities for service. So I'm hoping that one of the things that can come out of our time together today and future meetings is to find a way for those who are not in a physical community but have this online community, for example, to be able to be helpful to others. And I think in general, given the needs for social distancing right now, that would be a wise thing to consider. You know, how can we utilize the resources that we have of this very spread out group of people to create something beneficial? That's it.
Thank you. That's a great idea. And the second half of the call is all about sharing practical resources. So I hope we'll be able to achieve that goal. Okay, let's go next to Sonia, and then we'll hear from Howard, and then I think we might need to close this report back session.
Hello, everyone. Sonia and Lindsay from Bread and Roses in Syracuse, New York. And we had the pleasure of speaking with 2 people from Canada and 1 gentleman from Nigeria. And it was a stark difference, the effect on the community between the Western world and in Nigeria, because their community, he said, was very vibrant and self-sustaining. And the 2 individuals we spoke with, who were in Canada and the US, both were experiencing fear because of the reactions that a lot of individuals are taking, especially in urban areas, which we are in urban. But that one collective thing that we were all doing, that we were finding ways to connect despite the social distancing and the isolation, like using Zoom, for example, to host our house meetings, which is something we do monthly and we haven't been able to do. Potlucks have been canceled, but individuals who live in collective spaces have been gathering to do music in the evenings more often than ever. And yeah, so pretty stark contrast. The fear is definitely there, but we're also all finding new ways of connecting and communicating.
Thank you. Thank you for that share. Wonderful. And Howard.
Hi, I hope you can hear me fine. I'm at Gaia Yoga in the big island of Hawaii. So in a way, our situation is a bit different. We're really where the lava had flowed last year, a year and a half ago. And it's really sort of an isolated area, not a lot of traffic. We're at the end of a road where the lava actually cut it off right behind our land. We're basically in the eye of the hurricane looking at what's happening around us. My own personal feeling is a concern for the reaction, even more so.
Howard, if you could take your microphone a little further away from your mouth, I think you'll be more audible. Does that sound right?
Thank you. Is that better? Thank you.
Yes.
The response around us seems strong. Our own community of about 20 people, that hasn't changed much. We've considered whether we allow visitors, and we've still had 1 or 2 per week. For different things, we've had more week on a more permanent basis. So from what I've read, numbers don't seem.
Howard?
Yes.
Howard, I'm sorry. We're having trouble hearing you. Maybe you could type in the chat if that's possible.
What I just did is what I had to do before. I'm sorry, I had video on. I think the video being off helps. I apologize that the sound was off. I think this is probably better.
Yes, it's the sound quality is not so good.
Okay, that's okay. I'll chat any additions. Thank you.
right, thank you.
The
Thank
sound
you.
was better when he turned the video off.
Okay, but maybe he can put in the chat, and because I think there's one other person who wants to speak, but they're having trouble with the raising the hand button, and that's Eric. Is Eric there and able to?
Terry already reported in for
Hi,
my group. I didn't
Cynthia.
raise my hand.
Whoops.
Cynthia, it's Eric Best. Are you talking about me or another Eric? Hello.
I'm hello. I'm not sure. Thumbs told me that you were trying to speak, so I wanted to give you an opportunity.
Waving your hand, Eric, so let her know. Would you like to share?
Yeah, yeah. Can you see me? All right. Anyway, with the group that I was put into, it's interesting that they're a group of 10 or 12 or so living in a large house on 200 acres. And the whole question of how much isolation or not to achieve among themselves is an issue for them. And they have disagreements. I asked them if they had any protocol or prior agreement about conflict resolution in hand. And they apparently do, but their challenge is not everyone is following the prior agreement. Since conflict resolution is one of the things I tend to specialize in, I was wondering about that. And it led me to wonder, Cynthia, you and 3 others from FIC are sort of organizing this call. I'm wondering, how is FIC doing with the absence of sky? That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric. We are doing well. We're doing well. We miss him, but we have a team of 4 who are working together as co-directors, and we're doing well. Yeah, thank you. All right. So that was an excellent first round. Thank you for everyone who shared and shared what's going on in your lives right now and with your communities, and just sending a lot of care to all of you. And yeah, and I appreciate that, that you're taking the time to be on this call and to connect with everyone here in this space. And I especially appreciate everyone who says, we want to use this opportunity. We want to share practical resources. And hopefully the second half of this call will be focused entirely on that. But before we do that, I want us to just kind of have a moment to take a pause together. And I'm guessing a lot of you are sitting right now. So this could just be a moment, a minute or two, maybe to do something different with your body. You could stand up or maybe stretch your arms, take a deep breath. Yeah, just kind of like arrive with your body in your own home or wherever you are right now, probably in your social distancing space, and just feel into how it feels to be alive in this moment and feeling connected to this really global community. We have people around the world on this call who are beaming in from their own homes. And just take a moment to arrive. And Susan, if you are there, I'd like to invite you to get set up with your song. And while you're getting set up to play that music, I'm going to introduce the second part of our time together, which is our second breakout group session. And if you have the agenda link, Maybe someone can put that agenda once again into the chat. You'll see that there's a document linked there for taking notes, because this next breakout group is all going to be about how your community is responding and preparing, and if there's anything you need, questions you need help answering, or advice or support that you can offer to others. And please document what you share in that note-taking space. And you'll be able to see the number of your group, and that'll correspond with the place to take notes in the document. And once again, it'll just be like before. I'll put you in the groups. The groups will be slightly larger this time, and then I'll call you back after 20 minutes. So you'll have a bit longer as well in these groups. And we'll hear the wonderful song from Susan, and then we'll put you into your groups. And yeah, and then we'll meet back here. So Susan, if you're ready, you can take it away.
Okay, sorry. There I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. Well, hey, everybody. Yeah, I really appreciated that breakout session. I appreciate this whole group. Thank you, Cynthia. And so the other day, I just, in the midst of a lot of messaging, much of which is about fear. And of course, we can always acknowledge there's so many amazing people around us doing incredible work in the health community, and you know, but this song came out just because it's sort of how we choose to respond to the current situation, or any situation we find ourselves in that is somewhat unknown or uncertain. And I think it also applies to community. It's not specific to COVID-19, but it is specific to making the choice to deal with this in a unified way and in the best way possible. So the song is called "A World Made from Love," and I'm gonna start it. It goes like this. Sometimes we all get tested, and we have to make a choice. Do we give in to the fear inside, or listen to the voice of love calling us back to a world we once knew? It was all for one and one for all. We never let each other fall. A dream, that's how it was where we came from. In a world made from love, where everyone can live without fear. In a world made from hope, any cry for help, and someone's always near. And just like heaven above, we can create a world made from love. Sometimes we feel uncertain about what the future holds. We want to cling to the familiar when everything we know is changing right before our eyes. Suddenly the life we once knew is slipping through our trembling hands. Is this the end or just a chance to start again with something so brand new? In a world made from love, where everyone can live without fear. In a world made from hope, any cry for help, and someone's always near. And just like heaven above, we can create a world made from love. direction. But if we're reaching toward the light, we can learn to live together and put an end to endless night and build a world made from love, where everyone can live without fear, in a world made from hope. Any cry for help, and someone's always near. And just like heaven above, we can create. Just like heaven above, we can create a world made from love. You know that's true. You guys are doing it.
Oh, thank you so much, Susan. That was beautiful.
Love you. Appreciate you.
Oh, appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Honored.
Yeah, good. All right, folks. Well, with that, we're going to send you off into your breakout groups, and I'll call you back after 20 minutes. Please enjoy the conversation in your groups. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, welcome back.
That was fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wonderful. Good. Oh, that's excellent. Good. I hope everyone had a good time in their breakout group. It's amazing to see the notes. The notes is just like full and full with information and resources. Wonderful. So just like before, we're going to have 10 minutes to hear some voices of how that was for you. And in particular, I'd like to invite, if you have something you think would be really beneficial for the whole group to hear, something that would be really useful for everyone on this call, please raise your hand and also use the chat to type and share with the group. But you can go to the participant screen, you can click on raising your hand, and then I'll call on you to speak. Oh, sweet. Very sweet things in the chat. Okay, Howard, I see you. And I will unmute you.
Hi. Yeah, I wasn't ready to go first, but I guess I am. I'm very curious to hear what strategies people are utilizing to deepen connection in their community, whether they're socially distancing or whether they're not. I would love to hear that. We personally use NVC. We use some MKP, Mankind Project, techniques of clearings, etc., and co-counseling. I was watching a video last night that talked about large doses of vitamin C being very effective in anti-pneumonia viruses. I'm also on a raw diet, which I find has prevented colds in me for the past 8 to 10 years. That's my piece. I'd love to hear from people about what their strategies are for deepening relationships in community.
Great. Thank you. Good. I see Mary Kate has her hand up.
Hi, yeah, just in response to what are the strategies for deepening connection and relationship. I'm from Guelph, Ontario in Canada. I'm from a community called the Junction Village. And central in that community has been a course called On the Presence. And there's probably about 500 people in Guelph who've participated in that and who are part of that conversation. And we found that at this point, that course has been completely important, and the community that's come together around that has been really quite incredible. And it's been quite simple to take it onto a Zoom platform, although it never has been. It's always been in small groups. But over the last few weeks, we've taken that onto Zoom, and it's been excellent. And so I think that glue has been very central in creating resilience in this community and a connection, and also just helping us to create a context of all is well, like even as this is moving through and as things have been happening, I feel like we've from that found resiliency and community on a wider scale, and we've been able to practice physical distancing, yet social connection, deep social connection. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, it's physical distancing, not necessarily social distancing, right? Yeah, good. Good. So now we'll move to Sarah. Don't have your last name. Sarah, she, they.
That's okay. Hey.
Okay.
Hey, y'all. I was asked to highlight in the big group a question that I posed in the breakout group, which is I'm currently a recurring visitor to a community of about 50 in Alaska, and about 30 of us live in the same house right now. I just went and got lunch in line with 50 people. And we've put a lot of time, and we're still putting a lot of time into this decision, but I have a question around, and I'm interested in connecting with people in other communities who are stuck at the decision point of like whether or not to respond kind of at all, other than what we need to do to like not get in trouble and tarnish a public reputation. Because I feel like that's really the level that the disagreement is at here. Some people are like, whatever, and other people are like, oh. And so I'm interested in hearing from and connecting to folks around that. And I will put my email and my number in the chat. Thank you.
I'm curious, what would the downside be of communicating clearly with people who want to invite you? Who could be against clear communication? I'm curious.
I don't know from the host if this is a time for back and forth, but
yeah, we can if you want to.
Short one.
Okay. Do a little bit.
Can you restate your question, human that just asked it? Because I didn't really understand.
Hi, I'm Eric. I just wanted to say a few more words about the people who would say don't communicate at all, just don't answer. What would their argument be for not responding clearly about whatever policy you have?
There are a couple things going on here. One is that this is a very this environment respects people's autonomy a lot and not coercing people into things. And so it's kind of like you opt in. That's pretty much how everything operates here. And the other one is that there is this understanding of like sickness that is something, there's a shared understanding of sickness in the place between some folks that it's sometimes something to like welcome and has something to teach us. So, and there's both like, therefore that's like the fear shaming side. And then there's like a counter of the fear mongering, and it keeps going like this. So there's like, I mean, you could call it a spiritual frame. You could call it like a mental framework or a set of beliefs that make people like distrust the information that they're getting about it from the outside world and think that the best response is just to like double down on being a community and doing what we've been doing, but even more so like together in trust. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Great. Okay, I see a hand up for Theo. Theo Blodgett?
Blodgett. Yep. I just like to report, just internally for me, a very noticeable upsurge of creative energy, and kind of seeing what each day will bring, and along with others who I'm very fortunate to live with, of coming up with creative possibilities in the midst of all this. Obviously, the times are really challenging in ways that perhaps we haven't been challenged before. And, to me, there's an element to this that it's the best of times. We're really being forced into a corner here to really show who we're made out of. And, to me, that's a really exhilarating process, no matter what happens. We're being, as a civilization, we're perhaps being forced into, getting real with each other for, despite all of our so-called differences. And to me, this is really, really a wonderful time.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that perspective. Okay. Right, so I see 2 more hands in the participants view. So I'm just going to call on those 2 people, and then we'll need to kind of move into the closing session. So we have Zarina, and then there's Jenny.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to your point, Sarah, which is really tough. I think in our breakout session, we talked about how sort of consensus-based models are really difficult to deal with, or not really equipped to making emergency decisions, right? Often in our community spaces, when we do consensus, we have to pull a house meeting together, and then not everyone can make it, and before you know it, you're 4 days in and the case numbers have doubled. And so we talked a bit about that. I just want to say I have been organizing with a lot of houses in San Francisco, which is where I usually operate. And a ton of them have these anarchist principles, which is really hard. And it's sort of like, your right to swing your hand ends where my face begins. And this has brought up a real challenge for us, because suddenly everybody's behavior affects everybody. And so what I've seen happen in the situations that you're describing, where there's a sort of split between people who want to take this seriously and not, is that for those who decided to not take it seriously, they end up sharing space, and for the people who are trying to minimize their risk profile, they had to be in other spaces. And so what I've seen happen is a lot of like moving, not permanent moving, but like, short-term moving, and sort of saying, hey, I acknowledge that we have different values around this, but I would like to be in a space with people who have a shared risk profile, and once this pandemic's over, we can regroup, and that's been pretty fruitful, if not short-term disruptive, but in the long term I think will be better. And I'm totally down to talk to you about that a bit more offline if that's useful. I'll put my email in the chat. Okay, bye.
I love these connections that are forming. Beautiful. Okay, Jenny from
TLC Farm in Portland, Oregon. I sent this out in the chat, but I just want to kind of put out a call for like help or support. If anyone, if anyone wants to help talk through some really hard decisions we're making. A bunch of you know my community on this phone call. 19 of us share a really small space. We're in Portland, Oregon, so we're in a city. We have a farm and land, and we have a lot of different exposures that we've had and needs. We have native vulnerable elders here we're really trying to protect. We don't have the ability, like Zarina, I love the idea of separating people that want to be safer and less safe, and we don't have the facilities. Usually it's really beautiful that 10 people share a kitchen, and I've been here 15 years and it's been great. And all of a sudden, living in community is really hard. All of our unresolved power dynamics from 15 years are up. And we've been in just, those times when you're just in like crisis meetings every day with everyone for many hours, making just really hard decisions. So I'm looking for support from other people that are with a lot of people sharing a small space, and especially in a city where very soon people are going to be antsy and want to go out. Like right now we're doing 7 days of no one in and out, but very soon people are going to want to go like out for various reasons, and that feels confusing. So I'll put my contact info in the thing, and thanks for hosting this, and love you all.
Oh, so much love to you, Jenny. Oh gosh. Yeah. Mm. Okay. Okay, folks. So we're coming into the last 15 minutes or so of this call, and I hope you have found it nourishing or useful. And we will be taking all of the information, the resources and links that you put into the notes taking document, and we'll be putting those on the resources page on our website to help share information around. And we'll also be sending out via email the recording of this call. So you'll have that. And along with the recording will be the chat. So you can actually go through and read the chat and pull the information from there as well. And that recording will only be shared with the people who were on this call. If you didn't register to join this call and you want to get that information, just write to me at cynthia@ic.org, and I'll make sure you get that. We also are asking folks to fill out an evaluation form. We hope to do more of these calls. It's actually our second time hosting a large Zoom call like this as FIC, and we want to keep improving going forward. We think it's an important thing to be doing right now. So we'd appreciate your feedback, on this evaluation form. And also, we'd appreciate any help or financial support you could offer to FIC at this time. I know it's a challenging time for everyone, but if you feel like you're well-resourced at the moment and want to pitch in to help make these calls happen, we'd really, really appreciate it. Or if you want to become a sponsor, that is an opportunity to share about your business or project, and we would promote your work on these calls and go through our social media and newsletter. So that's kind of a value exchange, and it definitely helps us because this is mostly a volunteer effort to make these calls happen. But we feel like it's what's needed at this time for sure. And again, I want to send out a big thank you for everyone who donated and everyone who became a sponsor to help make this happen, as well as for the whole FIC team for really collaborating to pull this off, and especially Adam, who I'm going to hand it over to shortly. But first, I'm going to put those links that I mentioned into the chat. So you'll have there's the evaluation form, the resources page, as well as the donate button. And if you have more resources, like at a later point, like your community creates a document or something, just send that to me and I'll put my email in the chat as well.
Cynthia, is there a way we could get, for those that are willing, contact information for folks? Is that an option that we could, because I mean, I've been following it, but just a way of consolidating it?
Yeah, the tricky thing is, like, I have the contact list, but I don't know if
How about if anybody who's willing to let their email addresses be shared should type into the chat,
right,
"Hi, I'm willing to let my email address be shared."
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah, down with that.
Chat. So yeah, that also makes it easy.
I've put mine in the chat. in the, just so that maybe that's the way we just write it in.
Yes, that sounds good. Please write your email in the chat if you'd like it to be shared with others.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, before I hand it over to Adam and Neil for the closing piece, are there any last things any questions you have specifically? Or are we kind of good for the moment? I know maybe we'll even leave this Zoom room open after the call just so you all can have a space to continue for those who can stay on. But if there's nothing else that's super urgent, I will pass it over to Adam to close us out. Thank you all so much.
Okay, thanks, Cynthia. And I just want to say thanks to Jenny also for that very vulnerable share, and I hope that you can receive all the support you need and that this call will help you bring some of that in. So we promised a game. It's a little tricky to figure out what sort of game might be appropriate under the circumstances. But we'll start with something quite simple, just to get a sense of the communities that are in the room with us here. We'll do a few rounds of this, depending how long things take. I think it'll be quick. We're going to start by starting with the number of people in a community. So what we're going to do during this little game is we're going to find what's the largest community represented in this room. Okay. So we'll start with a small community, and then anyone who's in a community that has more members than that starting community will say the number. Okay, so somebody might start saying, I'm in a community, this is the name, and there's 3 people in it. It's a pretty small community, but there could be a 3-person community. Somebody else might say, name of community, 10 people, and we'll go up until probably within a moment or two, we'll reach whatever the largest number of people in a community that's represented here. Does that make sense to everyone? You can raise your hand if that sounds good. Unmute yourself if you have a question.
There's 220 have just been posted. Crystal Waters has 220.
Oh, no spoilers. But that's good information. Okay, so we'll start with who's in a small community, and we'll just go from there. Okay, you just go ahead and unmute yourself. Say the name of your community and how many folks in it.
8.
6 people here at Terra Frutis.
1 person and animals, insects, and trees, so we're very big.
3
Whole
people.
village.
Currently, we're at 3 people.
Whole village, we're at 11, and we're in Ontario, and we're struggling with this whole thing.
Oxbow Family Farm, 9 folks, a half hour outside of Portland.
Oregon.
Okay. So who's in a community larger than 11? We're going up.
This is the Junction Village in Guelph, Ontario, and we have 30.
30 people, okay.
It's Portland, Oregon, at Foster Village, 1 cat and 3 chickens.
Lots of Portland areas.
So Stony Point Center, Community of Living Traditions, we have about 20 adults and 4 children.
Okay, who's here who's with a community of larger than 30 humans?
Yes, Stark Community in Seattle, roughly around 50.
Roughly
Arboretum,
around 40, okay.
Arboretum co-housing, we have 90.
Wow.
90 people.
In Alaska, we have 50.
50, okay.
Burlington
So
Co-housing in Vermont, we have about 65.
all right.
Jeff,
So
we have about 50 in Denver.
and who has more than 90?
I think I'm gonna win this game.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll probably be second place.
Oroville has thousands.
Go ahead.
Oroville is about 3,200 currently from about 60 nations.
3,200 people. Wow.
The Renaissance Festival community, thousands. I don't know.
Oh.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. Okay, I think we'll call that a wrap. I think it's possibly a tie, depending on definition, between Auroville and the Renaissance Festival community.
Jesus, I thought we were big.
What about the rainbow community?
I guess they're not on this call.
Maybe not.
We take the position that community from the Latin means come means together, munus means gift or service. So we look at any group of people living close by to each other as being part of a community, and we're just trying to improve. We're 2,600 people, but we're trying to improve the quality of what we've got.
And what community is that? That's 2,600.
Well, we're in a community called La Salle Gardens in Montreal, Quebec.
Okay. All right, so can we do something really silly here?
Of course.
I was going to do another round of this of what's the oldest community, but at the moment that seems a little pedestrian. I'm wondering if we could do the same thing, but the question is, what community or individual has the largest number of rolls of toilet paper on hand for this crisis?
Can I also say that I'm proud that Orville, with 3,200 people, probably has the fewest rolls of toilet paper because it's in India.
And I would say Gaia Yoga Gardens on the Big Island of Hawaii has none because we use leaves in our composting toilet.
Yay. Proud of you.
Okay, it sounds like this sort of contest is going in the opposite direction, but that's okay. Anyone else with 0?
Sure.
No, nobody wants to admit that.
Yeah, yes, over here, water washing and no composting toilets yet, but we're looking for it.
Okay, and is there any community here who will admit to having at least 2 rolls of toilet paper stashed for this pandemic?
Well, I have at least 20, but I did 10 years of diapers, cloth diapers. So I have my bucket with the bleach water and I cut up all my rags. And so I'm good to go when the 20 disappear.
Okay, being prepared. Also, it can be an honorable thing to stash some rolls of toilet paper in order to help your neighbors. I just want to raise that as well. Okay, so I don't think we're going to get into the hundreds or thousands here. So perhaps we should wrap that up.
I think my community, we have 2 cases always on hand because in Portland we're afraid of the earthquake. So we prepared for a different type of crisis.
Fair enough, and no panic buying required because you're prepared already. Okay. So I guess you win then. You win the largest number, Benjamin, and your crew in Oregon. There is no prize, I'm sorry to report, but
Not even one more roll?
Yeah, one more roll.
Okay, so this is it for the competitive games. However, I did want to ask a couple other questions. Just maybe we can just have like a show of hands. Who here has danced by yourself while in isolation or quarantine? Okay, looks like a majority of those with video turned on. And one other question, just to get to see how folks are responding to this. Who's cried on witnessing an act of kindness or courage in the last few weeks?
Definitely.
Okay, thanks. So that's it for my supply of frivolousness for this call. And so to finally close out, I thought we could take just a moment for anyone who would wish to. I would invite to think about what you've learned on the call, what you've experienced, and what your intention would be going forward from here. How would you like to from this call to step into your community, the world, your roles in the times that we're in? What intention would you set? And we could just take maybe 30 seconds of quietness to think about this. Starting now, and there are a couple of hands raised. So once we're done a moment of quiet, then we'll let a few voices speak, and then we'll move on to another poem from Neil. Okay. Oh, Cynthia has a bell. Thanks. All right, so maybe Dee Dee, would you like to speak?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Howard?
Sure. I'm impressed at the variety of responses to what's happening. The alignment with urban versus rural and other situations. And I'm struck by both the resilience and above all, the brilliance of being in this sort of freshly new community of people who have chosen to be in community, and how there's something I feel very trusting about everyone I've heard from.
Thanks, Howard. So I think we have time for a couple more voices and then we'll close out. And the Zoom room will be open for folks to chat afterward for at least a few minutes, if anyone's inclined. So
I just wanted to
Jason.
pipe in and say I really appreciate all the positive mindsets that I heard today. Even though this is one of the roughest times we'll probably all have lived through so far as humans together. I think this is really a powerful time to, like you said, Howard, join community, have community in whatever way we can, whether it be digital or living in community, and also just using our minds to really create the best possible solution, because we can affect that as a community. So thank you for the inspiration. It's much needed as we're all in quarantine.
Thanks, Ryan. Jason Kvestad. And then Jenny, you're next.
Hello. I wanted to mention like a whole nother aspect that I don't think people really talked about much. It's kind of the conspiracy side of things. Like, I just like everyone to also be aware that there's a lot of risk going on right now with like the whole world being in a position where they're not allowed to really protest or do anything significant if things start to go down a more like socialist or communist way. I don't know exactly how to say we can act against it, just to be aware that we're at a high risk for being susceptible to this type of things that could happen in the near future, like losing some of our freedoms and that kind of stuff. At some point, I don't know, I'd like people to talk more about this thing as well, and just be aware that it's a problem that happens throughout history.
Yep. Thanks, Jason. So our final share for now, and then we'll wrap up. Jenny.
Final share. That feel. Hi, thanks. I just wanted to say real quick that my community is also really has a lot of great camaraderie and good spirit and like really helping. It's not like we're totally melting down. We're just dealing with big challenges. And I am usually a really happy-go-lucky person. A lot of people who are on here know me as that kind of organizer sprite. And it's really comforting, I've realized, to hear other people struggling right now. It's like really nice to know that other people are feeling really disoriented and kind of upside down. And I'm amazed at how nice that feels. So thank you all for also being honest in the struggles. Thanks for organizing, y'all.
Thank you, Jenny.
I would like some tips if anybody, because the stimulus practice, you can apply for unemployment if you have a gig or a freelancer. And I'm sure there must be a lot of people that have gigs at communities. And have you applied for that? And have you applied for the small business loans? And was there any tricks to share?
Sorry, I think we need to wrap up the call, but that's a good practical question, which hopefully there will be some notes in the notes document on the topic, and there's emails in the chat as well.
Adam, just to follow up on that before you go, is there any thought on your part or this group's part about some sort of coordinated response, right? I mean, to sort of, because I think that's, I don't want to lose that thread of what you're bringing up of, how can we collectively be able to, because it's, it shouldn't just be the lobbyists for United, right? I mean, is there any sort of collective response that you all are sort of working on that we could, kind of get at to look at some of these things?
Let's have that conversation afterwards if you have time to stay on.
All right, that's fine.
Great.
Put together another one of these Zooms so we could talk about practical things in a couple of days.
Okay, let's it's a good suggestion. Let's talk about it very soon, because I think there's something we want to do to close for the people who need to move on to other things.
Yes, so our final official item on the agenda. Neil is going to read us one more poem.
And the people stayed home. That's the title. And the people stayed home. And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows, and the people began to think differently. And the people healed, and in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you everyone so much for being here. If you need to go now, blessings on your way, much safety and care for all of you. Yeah, goodbye. Yes. And if you want to stay, you're welcome to stay. This room will be open. Okay, blessings. Goodbye. Thank you. Yeah, Neil, I think everyone wants that poem, so maybe I'll send it out in the email as well.
We will.
Yeah.
Just want to thank you for your facilitation. It was really, I loved that we had 4 people participating, and then I got to facilitate both the little groups, and people were so cooperative, and so it was really beautiful. So thank you, those of you who are putting time into this and who facilitated. It was really nurturing.
Good, I'm glad. Thank you, Patricia.
And don't forget to do laughter yoga. Ho, ho, ho. Ha, ha, ha. Hee, hee, hee. Woo!
Bye.
Yes, this is Howard. I also wanted to thank you for facilitating and providing this call. I'm a little amazed that when I really was feeling a desire for an intercommunity conference call, that the founder of this community said, "Oh, well, I just got an email," and shared it with me, and that's why I'm on the call. Really essential, and I hope for it to be a regular thing. I've really appreciated the nourishment as well, and the facilitation, and if it's being done on a volunteer basis, thank you so much as well. I'll stay on for a little while longer as well. I'd love to.
Thanks, Howard. All right. Okay. I think this is the group of people who wants to stay on. So I'd like to understand, what does a coordinated response look like? Does anyone have it? Because I don't really know what that means.
Well, one of the things it means would be having more calls like this that are inquiring into that.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of coordinated response would be meaningful to the people who'd be making that coordinated response? And what does the fact that I see, that FIC exists, add? What kind of value does the FIC add to that effort? That, you know, everybody would like to do X, and what's the value added by FIC to doing X? I'll just add that that's my answer to your question. I'll add my note that there's a sense in lots of the things I'm reading and some of the things I'm writing that this is creating what some people call an inflection point. It's like there's a chance we're going to go down this path or that path or the other path when, quote unquote, this is all over. Should this ever be all over, it's actually a shift to lots of changes happening, because there's lots of things going on other than this that are going to be impacted by this, and that this is impacting. And we were in a major time of change, and we as communities are modeling something that is appropriate to that challenge. But there's probably other things that we as communards could do in ways that would that would facilitate the society shifting in positive directions now that so many of the mainstream dependable institutions are shaking at their foundations. So inquiries about that I'd be interested in also.
And I mean, I know it's difficult because we're all in these, one of the beauties, I think we like the sort of the autonomous nature of our communities, but I think if there's some way where we as collectively could come up with, I mean, I don't know if it would be, just some sort of principle, anything. I mean, just to be able to kind of get at, because I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's an opportunity here, and collectively, if we can come together to, to figure out, I mean, because it's just, you think about these bailouts that are happening and who is getting, the subsidy, right? So I don't know exactly what it would look like, but I just think to start thinking about it collectively in a way.
This is Maria, and I just want to add on to what folks have already said. I think we need to think in terms of some kind of needs assessment. So present need, also future need. I think that anything that is going to happen needs to be coordinated. Individual efforts are excellent and helpful, but I think that could really fall apart quickly in terms of lack of resources and just dispersing energy. So if there's a group that can bring together, I was suggesting on the chat pane some kind of work groups that identify need, like providing information is a need. Providing tools and resources for well-being is a need. Looking at future possibilities, like someone was mentioning, what if grid goes down? Just different kinds of sourcing of information and possibilities that we could centralize through an organization like this that has such a wide reach.
Hi, this is Howard. I would say a coordinated response has already begun and I would say the skeleton of it is a document that's listing practical solutions that's fed by calls, regular calls such as these.
Are you thinking, Howard, of something specific, some specific document you are offering as a stimulant or crystal around which things can gather?
A touchstone. I am suggesting a touchstone, but one that's actually being, I think, seeds of which are actually have already been recorded from this call and hopefully others. I would imagine a document would want to be distilled out of the general document that's dealing specifically with practical solutions. And I think out of that, there'll be more coordinated movement that could either be done online or in person or taken on by communities. But I think the document is really the backbone of it all.
For me, a thread of shared solutions is one answer to your question, Cynthia, of some way to gather and organize and curate solutions in some more usable form than they currently exist online, and see who wants to join that. From my perspective, the idea that we, talk until there's nothing left but the obvious truth, as Oren Lyons, the Indigenous leader, says. The sense that conversation, high quality conversation itself, usually facilitated in various ways, is a way for people and communities to find their way together, to generate shared sense making together, to guide what they do next. That if you extend that into the larger society, to what extent can we facilitate, host, nurture that capacity in communities, not just among ourselves, but in communities, our larger communities. And how would democracy work if it actually was based on that? The fact that so many communities have sophisticated ways of talking together and or are having to find more sophisticated ways of talking together as we meet this challenge, to what extent can we help that become the way societies of the future operate? Because we're just going to be hit by more and more, climate change, technological developments, poverty, social unrest. I mean, there's so many things coming down the pike. This is just the beginning, and how our community is going to have the capacity to meet that. The alternative is totalitarianism, because that's what people default into in order to try and meet challenges where there's so much unpredictability and difficulty. They find somebody to lead them and force things into line. So how can we nurture? I mean, that's an inquiry that I have all the time with all the groups I'm part of.
Yeah.
So I see those as two threads of potential conversation of what a common agenda could be, could have several threads. Those are two coming from different assumptions and different focuses. There may be more also, but the act of creating space, like open space, the act of creating space for people who are interested in one approach or another to actually pursue those approaches together is a great gift. And FIC is one of those places that could provide that kind of space.
There's one thing, if I could add, this is Anne Marie up in Alaska in Fairbanks. I'm not with the other group that's probably closer to Anchorage. I just wanted to mention to some of you, some of the behind the scenes things that you have that interest possibly. There's been talk, let's say, that COVID is equal to 5G. The places that were hit the hardest, Milan, the Princess Cruise, and Wuhan, China, all had 5G, and they were some of the first to get it. There is, a lot of, a belief in that now. So this has to do with that. And, how rebellious do people want to be about that? But that we do need to speak up any chance we have a chance, an opportunity. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation now. Also, I'm not in community just yet. I've lived in, shared co-housing, and it's been on my mind. I've been researching it for probably 20 years. Of being just outside, but very much aligned with you, and being a teacher of spiritual information, meditating since I was 12, and being an acupuncturist. I see you all as the ones who will need to get this right first in terms of an organized, like you say, coordinated response. I understand you must have a temptation to stay very insular within your groups, because that's a beautiful learning thing. And I believe as souls, you are drawn to each other in these small insular groups. However, as you can see, there's little bells going off. Oh my gosh, we are all connected. We're this large cell, not just this one cell. So if we can appreciate on a very deep level how even our own physical cells in our body that will be rattled and are rattled by 5G, and then your immune is cut instantly, and you will then become ill. Not everybody equally ill, but ill. And how this is aimed at elderly, literally it's aimed at elderly and depopulation. So there's other agendas. However, the most important thing is to always keep your own cell, your own vehicle very calm, very smooth emotionally, and happy and uplifted and excited if possible. Your vibration of your cells and your immunity are completely linked. The healthy foods, the raw foods, and all of that. But if you don't take care of yourself, you can't lead. And I see you guys as the leaders, because now people who never thought about community are all thinking about community. Trust me, I've been on this for 20 years and knowing I'm going to be there within the next 10 years. I don't even know if it's going to be in this country, but I'm in America now. But I just want to tell you the importance of going within is everything. The whole idea of what is within is without, that we are creating our own reality. What you individually each see, and what I see, is literally the surround of what is within. And that can be changed on a daily basis. When it's something large like this, we've all agreed to a group mass consciousness reality. So we will all go forward together as a human race with these links. But on the individual level, I really think for you guys to understand your leadership is huge, and to have a big voice. Within the acupuncture groups that I'm a part of now, this week I was shocked and in love with the fact that we all got together on a national acupuncture phone call for the first time ever. And I'm like, oh, we're together. This is exciting. because you have the energy of every person also to share an excitement and love. We all are love at our root. And when we connect, this huge thing just starts. And also just within the state of Alaska, I've been here for 3 years. I've never been on a call with all the other, and now we're on a call together this week. I'm like, oh my God. So it's really fantastic, right? But we realize we have not organized the way chiropractors have organized and MDs have organized. So we have to have a voice similar to you guys and what, I'm sorry, Jed, what is it? Jed Lawhead? Sorry, I don't know your name.
Jeff.
Yeah, and so we're a little behind the game in organizing, and I can see you guys are behind the game in organizing just a tad, you know, but your power is in the fact that you have been insular and you have knowledge that the rest of us outside of community, except for maybe me who's been researching it a little bit, don't have. And just like, I want to encourage you, you know, Cynthia and, you know, you leaders at the FIC, know that you're going to be called upon even more than you ever have been before. So the sooner you can get your acts together individually with feeling calm and joy, fear is false evidence appearing as real. Don't buy that fake reality. It's being put on us in many different ways. We will have a fake reality shot on us. The virus is partly fake reality. The numbers have been embellished. It is also very real.
I'm gonna have to cut. I mean, let's not get into the. I mean, I don't want to get into the. I mean,
this is
I
just
have a
because
background in public health. I don't think anybody should be making any of those kind of statements.
If I
Right?
can
No,
suggest
I'm
a 30
saying-
second limit per speaker
Okay.
until we can get through
This
everybody
is
who wants to
very
talk.
real. It is very real.
I think
What's happening?
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Thanks
Sure.
for your contribution. And I think we will need to move on to other people who haven't spoken as much yet. Douglas, I think you had your hand up several times a little while ago. I wanted to see if you still had something you wanted to say.
Sure. Well, John McKnight proposed and did some development on what's called asset-based community development. We add economy. And so what it is that when we're looking at our needs, that's what our Do We Know Who We Are project is about, compiling, cataloging our strengths as our talents, goods, resources, and our dreams together as communities. And then the second part I'd like to advocate for is the Indigenous First Nation communities and people from around the world all have huge contributions to make for what we're creating here.
Thank you, Douglas. And thank you so much for everyone who has spoken. I would love to hear from, has anyone not spoken yet and has something to share? If you haven't
Yeah.
spoken at all on the call. Yeah.
I haven't spoken. I'd like to. Hi, I'm Kai Sebastian. I'm from Austin, Texas. And some things that some people have already touched on something, but I wanted to draw out and come to like maybe a course of action with it is creating a network that's available to people who are in community, but the people who are coming into community now and that are so a network of like facilitators and guides. So I think it was Tom maybe that mentioned like that noticing how like, I mean, I can't remember who spoke first, but they like just like holding deep, meaningful conversations, but someone to facilitate that. And so like, I think that's probably, I mean, there's a lot of, I view myself as a guide and a facilitator, and I just know that I want to be of service, and like this feels like a time right now. And so I'd like for there to be some way of like connecting, like of reaching out to people who want to create community and helping them decide like, you know, not only here's some resources, but also like facilitating the conversations amongst themselves.
I'd like to suggest two things. One is charging a fee to join future calls, because this is great. And I've been concerned about IC.org for a very long time, and I love these calls. So if you charge, I just paid $25. If everyone paid something, or sliding scale, if that was required. And also if there was a time limit per speaker when we're going around like this, I would love that. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, I'll speak. Just want to say thank you so much for putting on this call. I also donated, and this is I think one of the better moments I've seen with Zoom. Love the use of the breakout rooms, and I think the question that I have is like, what is unique about now, and where can an organization like FIC and the communities that are members of FIC play? And one of the hearing right now is all of this collective energy and desire to contribute in some way, and a few things come to mind. One is like, I guess, yeah, creating these regular social interactions I think is immensely powerful, and there are many communities, even in the Bay Area, that I would love to tap into, and I feel like even a second or third conversation would only grow in strength and in engagement. I also love the point on sharing and curating best practices. I feel like right now, many people that are community adjacent or curious about communities are reaching out to communities, because when I think about the resources communities have, it's not just physical, it's also knowledge. And there's so many practices that we've developed as communities to be able to live together and collaborate with one another. And I think that opportunity to really help make the knowledge within communities accessible is a way in which communities can be a voice that can be a resource for those that might not currently live in them. And I love the clear communication right now happening with FIC and its constituents. Like this clear two-way communication, I think is amazing, and I think it's powerful. And I think it's so different from just the simple email out to members. And I'd love to see that. And I think from these activities can emerge some sort of collective response, and I love this increasing of the social connectivity and glue that's happening. So I think this is part of the response, and whoever mentioned that at the very beginning, and it's very exciting to see, and thank you for creating the space.
Thank you, Kaisen. Kaisen is our newest FIC board member, by the way, so there's an opportunity. Come join the board. There's someone who has written to me in the chat that they're having trouble. They can't raise their hand, and they've been trying to speak. It's Dunbar. Is that Harvey? From here, let me unmute you, Harvey.
Dunbar.
Dunbar.
Yeah, I'm very interested in the group.
Oh, we can't hear you.
I'm very interested in this group, but I so far I've had no direct doings with it. I live alone.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. Glad you're here with us. Yeah. Good. Okay. All right. Floor is open again, and there has been a few requests to limit to a minute, but I trust you to be aware, and I love hearing from people who haven't spoken so far.
Hi, it's Mary Kate from the Junction Village. I just wanted to say that what I've been present to in this is just the incredible power of bringing together the people who have in some ways been testing this out for a number of years and now actually bringing it together. And so I share the sentiments of what has been put forwards in terms of, perhaps there's now time for more calls, and more discussions and deeper discussions, and an offering or a document of some sort of way, and perhaps a network. I love the suggestion of a network of facilitators who might come together. So I'm interested in all of that. I've been taking some notes in the Google Doc, so if anyone is wanting to add to those, well, I just at the end I put some, so I would offer, please keep writing in that so that we capture the really rich conversation that's going on. And really what I'm noticing is just like, there's so much power in getting that we are all connected and we are all related to each other. So thank you. It's helping me to feel very supported and together. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. So just so you all know, like, I love there's someone's taking notes here. We got the recording going. There's a lot of good ideas. FIC staff and board members are here listening. So yeah, I think we're gonna like really take all of this in and think about what are some things that we can do with our capacity. Definitely continuing to have these calls. It's a lot of work to put them together. But definitely we can do one every month. That's what we've been signed up to do thus far. And I really appreciated Alex, who had the suggestion about different payment models, because we tried the sponsorship thing this time and it didn't quite, like, it just barely covered the Zoom costs that we have. So yeah, we gotta, gotta find out a way to make this sustainable. Yeah, which has been something FIC has been moving through, as I'm sure many of you are aware. Yeah, how, this work is needed. How do we make it possible?
Cynthia, Eric here, a quick question. You mentioned the cost of Zoom. How much is it? And if you had 100 people, how much will we have to put in per head to make it work?
Well, for this subscription, so we have our normal Zoom subscription, and then to bump up to 500 people, it was like about $150. But we did cover that through our sponsorships, but that didn't cover all of our volunteer time, like myself and Adam for planning, myself for all the communications, that kind of stuff. It just, it takes time.
Right, right. Many, many thanks for all your efforts.
Yeah, thanks.
And I'd just like to jump in and reiterate, I'd love to hear by text or email rather, just some of your stories to put as a combined report, I guess, into Eco Village Voice. And also, Cynthia, I've emailed you, I think, and a couple others at FIC. Love to work out some ways we can cooperate more, collaborate, and I'll be doing webinars and podcasts with some of our people here, primarily permaculture related to begin with, but also broadening out into the mechanics of Eco Village growth and helping us all survive and thrive. And so yeah, just want to open that invitation to everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, let's follow up for sure. Cool. Good. All right. Well, this is the unplanned portion of the call. So I can stay for a few more minutes, but I'm happy to leave this room open and y'all can keep chatting. Just so you know, I might need to bow out at some point, but the floor is open.
Thanks for putting this together.
Yes, as well, I'd like to thank you all for putting in the time and energy of putting this together. I think it really is important and timely. I also wanted to say, as I did PM you, Cynthia, I'd be willing to volunteer sometime on a regular basis in terms of, helping organize or outreach or whatever it takes. Thank you all so much.
Great. Thank you, Howard. Yeah, maybe email me. I'm not sure I'm getting a lot of messages. Good.
Cynthia, I missed the intro. I know that you're recording this. Will there be a way to get the link for the recording and you guys post the whole chat to look at those, or just the Google Doc?
The chat will be with the recording, and if I have your email address, I can get it to you. Did you register through the form?
Yeah, I did. Okay.
I'll get you too. Great.
I've discovered the best way to save the chat is to do a, select all and then do a copy and paste. It comes out looking very neat compared to the chat that Zoom's record supplies you with. It gives a nice spacing and everything so you can see what's going on, doesn't collapse at all.
That seems a good backup. I've been taking snapshots. I'll try doing that. I think when the call is done, the chat disappears though. So to be timely about it, one does.
Where you enter a chat in, there's a little 3 dots. And if you click on that, it says save chat. And it will deliver the chat to your desktop as a text document after the call. But I think the copy and paste is a much neater and easier to handle version, but both of those work.
I've just done both of those things for other FIC staff folks.
So are you saying that you just saved the chat? Okay, cool. I was about to do the same thing. So thanks.
And the chat, I believe, will also be saved and available along with the call recording for anyone who doesn't have, anyone who doesn't grab their own copy of it will get it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, beautiful folks. I'm gonna duck out, but thank you, and we'll leave this room open a little bit longer. But much appreciation to you all. Have a
Thank you,
good rest of your
Cynthia.
days.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Cynthia.
I'm heading
you.
out too.
Yep. Thanks,
Thank
all.
you.
Many thanks, Cynthia.
Take care all. Thank you, Cynthia and all.
Thank you.